إنها ولا كمان أن يقوم وقعنا بيمدي ميديا بسلام مساهم يمدي ميديا مردا ملك عن متكبر نسرح ميديا يو ني ماسرجا زمرحو تواصل وسانن نبع على تواصل ኽግበር تسعر ميديا يو لما أنتي حدش مدى حزنا مسنا لنا عند ሕይወት ሕይወት بايكدان كم زفلت قدمي 200 كلتان عامت زعرفه ود 33 عامت خوينو نا ايكونومكس هذه دمو زمن زي بشع زمن ليتبالغ كون يخل او زمن نا كبابي حالوا لمعات بزملكت زنطف زنبره منسيو ሕይወት بايكدان شعو زصحافن كلتا وسنت مصحافات الله دهر 100 عامت ون بطعمي ترجم زهبا بزح نجار عالماوي نعدنا طرحت زي خناس بعالم أبزن معمل عدتها سيترفه بزح كنم هارلو نخيل إيكونومي خمسة مرح تفترو حلو خمسة لو ناي ود سب دمو معبالن خاب دخنت زوج من قدن كما يخون خمسة لو زنطف زنبره من سعيو مهور ሕይወት بايكدان بوسم العلنا كل جزء مس كاب أتوم كنمهارو كنخيل نبلوم زتمهارو سبك إلاتات نقربنا نزر عربلو نداق ሕይወት ስለዚህ لو معانتي كم يمدي ميديا بتعمل حاجوس سمعني ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ሙሉጌታ ናይ መጀመሪያ ጋሻይ ኮይኑ መጽለውና ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ሙሉጌታ እንኳን ናብ የምዲ ሚዲያ ሓዳሽ መደብ እንዳገብረ ሕይወት እንኳን በሰላም መጻኻ
ታሚ መስክነካ ዶክተር ጌታቸው thank you very much ነዚ ሚይጥ ስላደምካኒ የመስግነካ እዚ ሁሉ ሰርሖ ዘለኻ ታሚ አገዳሲ ናድላዩ يزبلان زي كبيد صقم كحلفيو جن open زخونه dialogue يدلينا يو مالت بدغيرنا تي ريكفري من تان كنزراربلو زي كله ادلايو كلاي ن ሕይወት بايكدان celebrate مغبارخا مسكنا يغباكايو and it's about time ሕይወት بايكدان unique زخونه intellectual or modern African intellectual بلو medicine أصنعو بدحريو became Africa's first development economist basically what's amazing about him he died young 33 ዓመቱ ሞቱ ግን ብዙ accomplish care ስሞት ሞሲ I'm very happy to be here thank you
دعمي مسكن واحد برنبي في البرنامج زليو ሕይወት بايكدان فلت زلو زاكل ايتفلتن زفلتو بطعميهم زغرمو افتي تزحافو مصحفتس شلك على نوصاها ነገር ትዘራረብሉ ትኽእል እዩ እና ሓደ ኣብ አዲስ አበባ ዘሎ አክቲቭ ዝኾነ ኢኮኖሚስት ኣሎ علماء جدا ناتو ناي جبريوت بايكاداني ناي مايكل سمورس لاستنيمو خالي ايكونوميست نا امريكا مسونا نصاصره زصحافو مصحف اللونا مسؤون خزراربي لا حسب مجمريا زي انا بطعمي حقوس سخانا مجمريا غاشا بمخانكا ምክንያቱም ትዋና ናይ እንዳ ገብረ ሕይወት ክልተ ዓላማታትኒ ሓዲኡ ገብረ ሕይወት ከም ምሕሳብ ከም ኮይኑ ግን ክልተ ዓላማታት ካብ ከማኻ ዝበሉ ሰብኪላታት መናሰይ እንታይ ክመሃር ኣለዎም እንታይ ክገብሩ ኣለዎም እንታይ ክሓስቡ ኣለዎም ዝብል ንምትሕልላፍ እዩ ካልኣይ ደሞ ከም ዝበልካዮ ዝፀገም ክሓልፍ እዩ ምስ ሓለፈ ትግራይ ኣብ ትገብሮ ዳግም ህንፀት ታሃም ትብሎ ኣብ ካሊእ ቦታ እውን ጠቂሰዮ ነይረ ስኻ ዝበልካዮ ቶሎ ኮይኑ ብዝበለፀ ደሞ መሊስና ክንሃንፃ ኢና ክንነጥቃ ኢና ዝብል ኣሎና ኣብታት ሓሳብ ንምክፋል እዩ ኣብ የምዲ ጥራሕ ተለይኮነስ ብኣከባቢኡ ሰብ እዚ ክዘራረበሉ እዚ መዘራረቢ ኣጀንዳ ንክኾን ንእሽተይ ዘርኢ ንምብታን እዩና نمجر ملعلتي بروفيسر يعقوب منيو نابزبل نمخاد حد نقرب زي خاري مو أبزي هذا تملكت ناتري واللهم ناي بروفيسر يعقوب ناي تويتر أكاونتو يو أبزي أكاونتو أب University College of London كمزالو أب ناي حايلين ناي كبابي عير نبرتن أب ناي زوات لمعات قدات كم رأي أب ناي أفريقيا بالتالي دمو مس بحلاوي مس بوليتيكاوي مس محبراوي دليت على عمق زوالة دليت زي أب لينكدين تكتاتلو ومناسي زي ناي بروفيسر يعقوب زرخب له مالتي أبو خنزراربلو إنا تاي أب ناي عالمنا وسنت زخونو زوز ريبورتات بتالي مسناي كبابي عير نبرات ملوات ناتو ጻገም ዘብጽሖ ኣብ ልማትን ኣብ ማሕበራዊ ኣብ ኢኮኖሚ ሁሉ ነገር ዝ ነጥፍ ሪፖርትታት ዋና ካብቶም ዝጽሕፉ ካብቶም ደረስቲ ካብቶም ጸሓፍቲ ምዃኑ ክንሪኢና እስቲ ምናልባት ኣብዚ ናይ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ለንደን ኦፍ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ኮሌጅ ኦፍ ለንደን እንዮ እዚ ፕሮፋይልካ ምናልባት ኣነ ክዝለዓል ዝደልዮም እዚ እውን ዝተተሓዘ እንታይ ኣበይ ተማሂሩ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ዝብል ላውዚ ዘለኻዮ ከመፂና ግን ናይ ትምህርቲ ባይታኻ እንታይ ይመስል
Thank you, Getch. Well, Addis Ababa, Tamahira, Malat High School. Addis Ababa, nai St. Joseph, Bahal Timurtiin, High School. Kabu Nab Haditalian, Abu Yewode High School. Following that, Nab Ad America, Erlam College, the Bahal Nisbelet Liberal Arts College, Abu Geology plus Liberal Arts, the Maire, Erlam College, kind of unique, so hone تحسب هذا اللي college, Tom Quakers Bahalu, Satom Yom Mahadro, the ones who manage it. So it's a Quaker college. The uniqueness about the Quakers at all costs the peace Yom Zamnu. Awatiha, you know, you have to debate, you have to decide, decisions are made based on consensus. Had a gizeb yesagama kama niatum. You want majority rule doesn't work. Everyone has to be convinced with decisions. So Erlam College is interesting in that way. Abu Geology Tamahire, Kabuna Manchester MSc, Masters in Energy Systems and Development. ማለት ለዊተ ምልዋድ እንተዘይኮነስ ካብ ጂኦተርማል ኤነርጂ ሞር renewable energy ኣብኡ ዝኾነ MSc ሰሪሐ ካብኡ ናብ University of Leeds ዓዲ እንግሊዝ PhD again እቲ ፎከስ ናብ renewable energy specifically ናብ solar እና wind focusing on the Horn of Africa ነይሩ እዚ we're going back a long time over 20 years ማለት እዩ ስለዚህ ሽዑ ናይ climate change ገለ እንደዚህ አይነበረ ሞሲናተይ entry point it was more energy focused, energy and development focused, and it still remains with climate change as an addition to it. Thank you. You're mute.
ትምህርቲ ድሕረ ባይታኻ ኮይኑ ካብኡ ናብ ስራሕ ዓለም ኣትኻ እና ሕዚ ዝመፅኻሉ ዘለኻሉ ክንልዕሎ ኢና ብደንቢ ግን ታይ ኣበይ ሰሪሕኻ ድሕሪ ትምህርቲ ምውዳእኻ
ብድሕሪ ትምህርቲ ምውዳእይ ናብ በርሚንግሃም ትበሃል ሲቲ ዓዲ እንግሊዝ ማለት እዩ at the university ሽዑ እኳን ናይ በርሚንግሃም ፖሊቴክኒክ ይበሃል ነይሩ in sustainability research center ሓድሽ ተጣየሽዎ ነይሩ ናቱ ከም research coordinator ኮይነ ጀሚረ ማለት እዩ most of the time most of the work ኣብኡ ናይ within built environment ማለት planning architecture landscape and so forth ኣብኡ departments ናታቶም research coordinate ምግባር ሓድሽ research ideas እውን generate ምግባር እዚ ሁሉ ነይሩ ናተይ ስራሕ أو كاب University of Surrey بحال still at English as a lecturer in the Center for Environmental Strategy بحال department. I think Roland Krift تفلتوها يتاتشو. So I was as a lecturer جميلة and أبو خاناي MSc تيناتهم حجون زلو MSc I was responsible for setting it up. I stayed for 8-9 years or so. But أبو ناب reader senior lecturer ndabale ناب reader بحالالو مالت ፕሮፌሰር in waiting ማለት እዩ ካብ University of Surrey was in up for a brief period ናይ 6 ዓመት አዲስ አበባ UN Economic Commission for Africa ሓድሽ ናይ climate center African Climate Policy Center ትበሃል so I was among the team that set that up ኣብኡ ናይ senior energy and climate specialist ኮይነ ሰሪሐ بدهريو تماريسين ab Surrey and then eventually ab UCL Department of Science, Technology, Engineering and Public Policy تبال Department at UCL as Professor of Energy and Development Policy كمو غيري سرح له
غيرم أب هذه UCL تشرحوا صراحتي ممهارون الله مرمر الله كاو وصا دمو ዓለም አቀፋዊ ዝኾነ ናይ ዓለምና ወሳኒ ጉዳይ ዝኾነ እዚ ምስ ኢኮኖሚ ምስ ማሕበራዊ ጉዳይ ምስ ኩሉ መዳዊ ህይወት ዝተሓዝ ስራሕ ትሰርሕ ኣለኻ ናው ናፍቲ ዓለም አቀፋዊ ቅድሚ ምኻና ናይ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ መዓልታዊ ስራሕ እንታይ ይመስል እንታይ ይገብር ብዝብል እንድሕር ዝሓት ሰባሊ እንታይ ኢኻ ትብሎ
Okay, half the time I'm procrastinating, but the other half نقول له Now, well, ናይ research allo, so let's start about research projects allo. ናይ energy and development ተታሕስ relating to renewable energy, ናይ cooking una latnal you know kamegerha ናይ wood fuel. How do you transition out of wood fuel? Research alatna. So what do you transition to? Do you transition to LPG or do you transition to electricity? Kalaykhana community energy in Africa and the project alla. Hajunai green recovery and development in development. And kalaykhana, you know, climate compatible growth. This ila awuna energy and transport research allo. Malet ingedi a good proportion of my time is used up in managing research. Teaching una allo, of course, and innovation and development. Antina nata module alatni. Kalaykhana clean energy and development module una allo. Both postgraduate courses. Undergraduate course, I sat maybe, you know, next year hadish for the Katayshom program, maybe then. Then of course PhD supervision allo. Shidishta shwat zkhonu PhD tamaharu bitafalaya areas in energy, climate, and development, agriculture. And at the same time also my administrative work is as the department's title doctorate program director. UCL graduate tutor. And then of course beyond that the outreach srahallo my advisory srahallo na climate of energy Misfa'al Institute of Development Studies, definitely UN agencies, of course in countries as well, in Ethiopia and I Moyun Misatum Sarhnela. And then IPCC when Katamil Kaz Tawashayo in my intergovernmental panel on climate change. We're now in the 6th assessment report. Jinab Mudatna Darajanatolana after having had the 2 reviews. That's right, yeah. So I get involved in these kinds of things. And Zinai 6th assessment, 5th assessment, Abu Nerek, Abu 1.5 degrees special report one, come lead author Hoine Sarehe. So that's what occupies my day, my friend.
Great. أبزي أبرم خلنا العلاج دللي مكنياتهم كتاترونا فيسبوك ونا يوتيوب ونا لايفين عننا من البعض نظام زي فرق تايزي زبل تحجزنيها أبناي زناي علمنا ناي كباب ير لوتي ناي مقط موصح ناقدد مسيو دحري ناي اندستري ابيوت مالتيو هذه سكاب كلتشن حدا ميتن مالت زن تغصلا 7 عامتات اندحر ناب اير نلقو نغرات اندحر زي قنسنا بزح صقمات امسيو اوروماي جن بزحون غدد خديو مو ابزي نمنطاف تايت زلو ناي ساينس فلطات تايمسل يلوم لابسلاس تشح زخونو اب عالمنا بتفلالي ملكو زفلطو مهورات ساينتستات تمرامرتي زركبو يو IPCC እና ካብ አቶም ሓዲኦም ኮይንካ ከምዚ ዝበልካዮ ህዝብ እዚ እንያ ኣብ UCL ዝተጻሓፈን እና ተናይ ላዕሎት ሰለስተንያ ኣብቲ ናይ ኣሰስመንት ሪፖርት ሓሙሽተ ሓምሻይ ዝበሃል ኣብኡ coordinating lead author ኮይንካ ካብ after special report ደግሞ invited contributor 1.5 degree to report ማለት 1.5 201 meetings ካብ ኣኽን ሓልፍ የብልና እንድሕር ፀገማት ያው ዝቀነሰ ክኾን ወይም ከየጥፈአና ዓይነት ማለት እዩና ታትመጽላ ህዝ ደግሞ ምናልባት ለዓመተ ዲያ ትወጽላ እዚኣ ማለት እዩ እና እዚኣ ታወጽላ ሓደ እዚ ብሱሉ በብዓመቱ ዝወጽ ይኮን እንዳ ሓምሻይ ለምሳሌ 2014 ያወጽ 7 ዓመት ዳርጋ ይኮን ኣሎ እዚ ስለዚህ በቃ በሙሉ ተሰራ በዓለም ተሰሪሑ እንዲያው ዝሓለፈ ተመርሚሩ ዝሓለፈ ዝነጠረ ነገር ይኹም ላብ ሓደ ተምጽዎ እና ምናልባት ዝተው ተብራርሆ ነገር ምክንያቱም ታዩ እዚ ዋና ዓላማና ተምቀጸልቲ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ሙሉጌታታት ምፍራይ እዩ እና እስቲ ፕሮፌሰር ግበር
በቃ ናይ IPCC ስራሕ it was established in 1991 I believe so since 1991 ማለት ሓሙሽተ assessment reports ተሰርሐን ኣለዋ so how it works is that ናይ ተፈላለዩ chapters well there are 3 working groups working group 1 ናይ climate science ማለት greenhouse gas emissions the emission ንቲናይ አየር ከመገሩ ይለውጦ and how do we keep an eye on it ማለት አቡ ዘርሁ nice scientists አሉ አቡ ይዳለው ማለት working group 2 ናይ adaptation ማለት እቲ the emissions that is being generated ከመይ ዝመሰለ ኢምፓክት ይገብራሉ በተፈላለዩ sectors or regions so that's the second assessment working group 2 ማለት እቲ ያነ ዘሎ ሁሉ working group 3 and that's the mitigation part ማለት ባሬ እዚ ጸገም አሎ ከም ዝበልካዮ we're approaching danger territory in terms of emissions and how it's going to impact our world. እንታይ ምግባር ንኽእል ዝብል እዩ so it's about taking action each of the working group come asserta ሓሙሽተ ገለ chapters ኣለዎ each chapter has roughly about 10 authors lead authors እዚ coordinates ገብሩኻ ክልተ ኣለዎ so the idea is እዚ ሁሉ ናተይ chapter ሕጂ ዘሎ ሁሉ ናይ services and demand ቅድም ኢለ ዝነበር ሁሉ ናይ energy systems ሞንታይ ማለት እዩ energy systems እቶም 12 ዝኾኑ authors you debate time this ሽልሻገጽ እንታይ ከናቅምጥ ኣብዚ what's relevant ማለት በዚ ሓሙሽተ ሽድሽተ ዓመት ዝተሰርሑ ዝተጻሕፉ research pieces you review them you essentially assess those reports and distill them and you bring them into a single chapter ማለት ካቡ ሰለስተ review process አለው first review process is experts ማለት እቲ chapter ምስተጻሐፈ ይስደድ ይልቀቅ ማለት እዩ ናብ experts so the experts make they do their reviews on average each chapter not chapter now it had 2200 comments each of that comment has to be responded to either you accept you reject but deep በሆነ explanation transparent በሆነ ናይ excel file ከመ ጌርካ ትልኩ you do the same thing the second review is about other policymakers. And then the third review is more defense. Plenary you defend it in front of the countries. I wouldn't political time. There are, some countries are not happy with your angle. Oil producing countries are biogas, biomass users, industrialized countries and developing countries. They all have different different interests. So you're trying to manage that in that plenary. It takes about a week. Intensive debate between the scientists and the countries. And you move forward. That's 5-6 days of literally sleepless nights, and that's how it goes. So then the report is released out. I hope that wasn't too long.
ግርም هذه ምናልባት ኣብዚ ዝርዝር ዝደልዩ ተወሳኺ ሓበሬታ ዝደልዩ ከም ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ምኾንኩ ዝብሉ ያው ትዊተር ወነሪና ያመለና ሊንክድኢን ላይ ወነሪና ያመለና ኮንታክት ክብሩኻ ላብ ዝቕፅል ሕቶ ክቕፅልሞ همዚ ዝበልናዮ ተዓላሙን መናእሰይ ንኽላዓሉ ምግባር ስለ ዝኾነ ኣብ ሓንቲ ኣብ ካልኣይ ብርኪ ዘላ ተምሃሪት ምስቲ ኢነርጂ ይኹን ምስቲ ናይ ክላይሜት ቼንጅ ትሰርሐለኻ ምስቲ ናይ ዩኒቨርሲቲ بمولو تتحيزو اندحر ناتكا عصر خطل كوينا تايتا ኽግበር زلوا بتناتكا تايلكا من مخاركا.
Be happy, Taida. Enjoy your studies. First thing is, I guess, high school it's a period of where you're learning new things. More in depth malati, and my advice is open yourself to everything. You are you're like a sponge malati. Mostly try to have as much interest in all the subjects. Don't narrow down just yet. High school is a time when in your life when you're sampling different types of knowledge, different types of how we understand our world. Of course, as 10 final year, 2 years then you begin to narrow down. So I think the opening up is important at first, but then that hopefully would help you to narrow down. Open then you begin to have a taste. It's a bit like eating your meal. Now buffet you taste different bits. Then you know what you like. Then you dig in deeper into the things that you like most. So I think that's the way I would approach it, Malate. Not only things that you not only the things that you are good at, but also make sure that you like what you do. Once you begin to specialize, then you are into that territory. Now, I feel as I was saying earlier, ብዙሕ entry points አለው. Social science science, engineering, different ways that you can enter the climate territory. One other thing is life is it's important that we have. I'm speaking purely out of because I don't have that. My advice is learn something, some art, way musica, way painting, anything. Now the musica doesn't have to be big, fantastic on a guitar. It can be krar, for that matter. I'd love to learn how to do the krar, but I don't. So I'm saying it because I regret I didn't do these things.
Good. أبناي كلاي بركندينا لعلنا جن أب يونيفرسيتي زلو تمهاري ويم تمهاري ترمو زحاشة نايموسان أدل اللهم نالبات مسجد توصلنا للكاي قايلة تعمل مستناي كلاي بركز تلع تتحيزو جن في بالنا قرتها اليو تايم ما حركة حد جزء بزغنا في التلعلكا ناوز فليز بلو انت اتيو لعددني ونديو كام سنامرو ولا تتحيزو مست من مخارون نسب من مخار نز فلت من مخارون تحيزكا تايم مخار كان ابي يونيفرسيتي زلو تمهاري.
Well, I mean, are you talking specifically about my subject area?
هو مستنات كاستة حازي.
Okay.
كاستهم قاش ناتاتهم.
هو. Well, Nate, let me tell you my example. Nate, I geology at my first degree and then moved into Musu when I kind of social science elements when they were. At liberal arts institution, that's what you do. So Gennate entry was more on the science and more on the science side of it, analytical. Even just looking at the IPCC reports, first IPCC report is about the science of climate change. You need, some modeling capability, some, the entry point for this could be physics, chemistry, the pure sciences, maybe a bit of engineering. You need to start understanding how the climate behaves under different, stressful conditions that we apply to it. Human intervention. Aptinai adaptation it becomes more mixed. Adaptation is trying to understand the impact. Now that impact can be on human beings, it can be on the ecosystem. The combinations of skills science at the same time also social science skills would be needed. How are people adapting to a changing climate? This is a human phenomena that we are talking about. Agriculture, industry, all of these things are driven by human beings. Mitigation, the same thing. You need, what can we do? What can we do? Technical interventions, engineering, when you are experimenting, when you are creating, new products, new technologies, like renewable energy, electrical vehicles, and all these things. But then at the same time, lifestyle and behavioral issues when social scientists and humanities people are needed. So let's climate, as a terrain of knowledge, wide multiple entry points is possible. The world is complex. More complex system managed ኽግበር. You will require multiple skills and capabilities. Practical advice. Okay. What I would say practically is try and do as much the internships below. Once you finish your studies, then you go into the place of employment. At an early stage, summer, even volunteering to work for, let's say, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, anything, even if it doesn't pay. I'm talking purely about people who are abroad, who are not in the country. mostly volunteer ምግባር ጽቦይ ምክንያቱም it adds to your CV plus it also fuels your imagination on how the real world works. The other thing is networking. እዚህ ከም ሰባት ላይ ምክንያቱም you need to be connecting with people. But what I would say is be brave. You know, sometimes we think, well, if I wrote to so and so, why would this person respond to me? And I'm just a young student. What's the worst that can happen? You lose, somebody doesn't respond back. Then if you have the curiosity to get to know somebody, do that. You know, in your network quality. And then finally, another practical advice is when you're trying to do your final year project, try to make it as problem solving as possible. Try to solve a real world challenge if you can through your studies, whether you are as a social scientist or engineering. You know, how is my skill going to be used in the real world? The best experimental site is your studies. So these would be my concrete advices.
بتعمل وسنتي نتبطات يوم هذه لمسة أبزاناي مالت حال فايدة لغون زيا عاوزي مسحاف نزم الكتوم المقبارة وطايري أنا مستناي بحلنا تتحيزي مثلني ولا እንደምን የሚሉ ይጽሕፍዶ ይተጽሕፍዶ ካው የመለሰለይ ስለለይ ደለዩ ወይም የለይ ዝብላለው ግን ሓደ ጊዜ በባዕልኻውን ምሳሌ ክትስብ ትኽእልኻ ቢዚ ትኾንዶ ዘይትምልሶሎ ብማዕረፍ ይመለሰና መሊስካ መጽሓፍ ምንም ዝጎድ ነገር ይብሊ በቃ ትጽሕፍ እንድሕር የለን እዩ እንድሕር ዘይኮነ አይኮነን እዩ ግን በዘይ መጽሐፍ ብዙሕ ዝሰርፍ ነገር ስለዘሎ አቡ ንሽተይ መበልካ ጽቡቕ እዩ ምክንያቱም ናይ ብዙሕ ሰብ ጸገም ይመስለኒ እዚ ሓደ ብዙ ህዝዋላ ዝናይ ትግራይ ምስተፈጠረ ዝረኽቦም ተምሃሮ ገለ ጽሒፈለይ መለሰለይ ምናምን ዝብሎ እና ኣነ ታይ ብሎም ጽሓፍ ወኣነ እውን ለይምልሶኒዮ ኣስተ ጊዜ ተመጽዩ ግን ولا دنجيس كون تملسي خانا أواسي نشتم مخارب دنبي.
No, you're right. Yeah. Well, two things. One thing I forgot was even write as much as possible. You know, improve your writing communication skills. Even to send an email, even when you're doing your research, how do you communicate complex ideas? In a language which is understandable by the average person. Yeah, I mean you're right. This is the challenge. It doesn't cost you anything. If anything, it might open up doors that you never imagined were there. If there is time.
Yeah, sure.
An experience. I finished my master's. What's the next move? And I was consulting. He was a professor at the university who we got on. He's an old colonial guy. What's your options? Maybe go back to Ethiopia. Is that possible? How is that? It was becoming quite, stressful moment. Why don't you do a PhD? I didn't think about PhD. I was thinking about work at that time. Anyway, so we agreed. Obviously he saw some potential. The next step is, how do you get your funding? So I drafted, a letter and began to make a list of places to go and look for my funding. I'm in Manchester, again, Tom, where most of the funding, the trust funds and all these charitable organizations are in London. And I remember I had limited resources. So I took the bus and went to London with 20 addresses. And in each of these addresses, you're knocking doors and you're giving, because you had already sent them the letter. Kawu, many hands. I sent you a letter some time ago. So these are English people. They are quite pleasant. They're polite. Tatu, shy, then he explained to them what your situation is, what you want to study, and so forth. And I remember the last one, I was left with the last one, and I knew that I was not really getting anywhere. The last one, I remember I was in North London. This address is in Central London. Should I go or should I not? Should I? Look, I've come all this way, so I might as well go. As soon as I walked in, you have the certain feeling, coughing. The guy was talking to me substance, interested, substance. And then finally he said, look, Mr. Astor, David Astor's he's the benefactor of that thing. I will make a case for you. And he's also interested in your region. So, week later, I get a call from Mr. Kemp. Mr. Kemp. David Astor wants to see you. That's how it happened. It's pure, yes, it's luck, but you have to create your luck. Eventually, David Astor managed to, and then I found out David Astor was the owner of the Observer newspaper. He was quite a character, quite a supportive person towards African students. Nelson Mandela Arku, he's the guy who used to send him books when he was studying in jail. So it was lucky, but you also have to create that luck, Malate. Mosi, right? Get be bold, and at least you would have tried.
ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቅ ትምህርቲ እዩ ሰባት እውን ይፅሕፍለይ ኣለዉ ብጣዕሚ ሕጉሳት እዮም ብዙሕ ሰብ ክሪኦ ይሓስብ ህዝቢ እውን ዝርዩና ኣለዉ ብዩቲዩብ ብፌስቡክን ምናልባት ናብተን ዝቕፅላ ሕቶታት ክቕፅል ኣብዛ ናይ ትግራይ ዳግም ህንፀት ምስቲ ናትካ ሞያ ተተሓይዙ እንታይ ትመክር ምስ ትሪኦኸ ንብል እዩ ኣብ መንጎ ግን እንታይ ከእቲ ማስታወቂያታት ከእቲ እሞ ንምለስ ኢና እዚ ኣብዚ ትሪእዎ ዘለኹም ኩል ግዜ ሰንበት ኣብ የምዲ ሚድያ ናይ የምዲ ሚድያ ፀዋታ ይቀርብ እዩ ብናይ ኣክሱም ስታንዳርድ ታይም ኢልና ኣለና 9 p.m. ካብኡና ብዓድኹም መልስዎ ብናይ ኢስተርን EST 2 p.m. ይኾነሎ ማለት እዩ ፓሲፊክ ታይም 11 a.m. ሴንትራል ዩሮፒያን ታይም እውን ሃሙት ትርጉምዎ ላይቭ እዩ ኣብ ዩቲዩብ ቻናልና መጽኹም ኩሉ ነገር ናይ ትግራይ ዘተኮረ everything about ትግራይ ብትግርኛን ብእንግሊዝኛ ክኾነሎ ምን ተንሳተፍ ዝበሉና ኣለው እና ጽባሕ 9 p.m. ናይ ምሸት 9 p.m. ኣብ ቆጣጽራ ኣክሱም ናይ ኣክሱም ስልጣነ ልምባል እዩ ብኡ ተሳተፉ ካብኡ ጋሻ ለኒ ጽባሕ ጋሻ ዶክተር ሰሎሞን መዝገቡ እዩ ኮቫሊስ ኢትዮጵያ ትግራይ አዘለንስ ብዝብል በመሐርኛ ዝግጅት ክንገብርና ኢትዮጵያ ወዴት ትግራይ እንደማሳያ 5 p.m. ኢስተርን ታይም ይኾነሎ ማለት እዩ እዚ ህዝብ ተከታተልዎ ዘለኹም ኣብ ናይ የምዲ ሚድያ ሓድሽ መደብ እዩ ኣብ ገብረ ሕይወት ገዛ ገብረ ሕይወት ኢልኩም ትርጉምዎ ትኽእሉ ኢኹም ገብረ ሕይወት ባይከዳኝ ብ1902 بفرنجا قطاطرا مالتي باوروبا قطاطرا ب33 ዓመቱ ዝሞተ ኢኮኖሚስት ሜዲካል ሜዲሲን ዝወደ ግን ኣብ ምሕደራ ዓድን ኢኮኖሚክስን ኢንቫይሮንመንታል ሰስቴናቢሊቲ ክንብሎ ንኽእል ሕዚ ብደንቢ ዝፀሓፈ ንዘለናሉ ናይ ዝማዕበል ዓድታት ይተረፈ ፅቡቅ ትምህርቲ ዝህብ እዩና ብሬጉላርሊ ካብ ምሁራት ክኢላታት ንዘራረበሉ ንመናእሰይ እንታይ ክመሃሩ ይኽእሉ ካብኡ ደሞ ትግራይ ዳግመ ህንፀት ትግራይ እንታይ ክመስል ኣለዎ ብሞያ ዓይኒ ንሪኤሉ ዝግጅት እዩ ሎማዓንቲ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ሙሉጌታ እዩ ጋሻይ እዚኣ ሰሚዕና ክንመለስ ኢና ሽግርም ፕሮፌሰር ሙሉጌታ እዚ ብናትካ ሞያ ብትናትካ ትምህርቲ ዳግም ህንፀት ትግራይ ኣብ ምንታይ ከተኩር ኣለዎ ኢልካ ትሓስብ ካብኡ ናብ ድሓር ካባኻ ሞያ ወፃኢ እውን ብትሪኦም ብትዕድዘዎን ካልኣይ ክመፅእ ግን ኣፍታ ናትካ ሞያ ትምህርትን ክእለትን ኣተኪርና ዳግማይ ህንፀት ትግራይ ዝመከራ ሓሊፉ ዝፀገም ሓሊፉ ንሪኣ ትግራይ ኣብ ምንታይ ክትሰርሕ ኣለዋ ኢልካ ትሓስብ
I think ኣነ እንታይ ይርአየኒ it's nothing unique ግን ኩልና ንሪኦ ዘለና እዩ ዓዲ ይዓኖ ኣሎ there's no question about that mostly እዚ ኩናት ምስ ተወድአ I think what we will discover is that services would have been smashed to pieces ምንም ጥያቄ የብሉ ስለዚ we have to think ማለት as if 1991 ማለት ደርግ ምስ ኸደ ማለት እዩ back there ማለት to think that things are going to start at that level unfortunately ግን እዚ ከዓ the difference is that in 1991 okay there wasn't much ግን the reason is because nothing was done that's the difference nothing was done because we're starting from zero because nothing was done ሕጂ ዘለና ኣሎ ግን things were done but they have been destroyed now this should give us a reason to be optimistic ምክንያቱም we know that the past 10 years at least especially the last 10 years ማለት ብዙሕ ተሰሪሑ እዚ ኩሉ most of the universities that have been established ዘን ኩለን ፋብሪካታት ዘን ኩለን the road system and you name it a lot of the infrastructure is ተሰረሐ most of it is the last 10-12 years maybe ስለዚህ mentally we're not starting from zero ማለት come 1991 ስለዚህ I'm optimistic እንግዲህ እዚ ሁሉ በዚ ኩናት ምስተወደ ማለት እዩ I'm optimistic that things can be built better and faster I really do of course faster depends on what resources are going to be raised but I'm also optimistic the law human togetherness it's unique it's always been there of course ግን number one educated ዝኾነ force አለው ወላውፃይ ዘሎ ውሽጡን ዘሎ እዚ ሁሉ በሓደ ተጠርኒፉ ነው everyone knows that there is no more time to waste ስለዚህ I think we will be heading in that direction ማለት with an energized citizens Benate field I think what we should be thinking about is how can we become self-sufficient in energy? Up to Tigray. Actually, I believe in self-sufficiency at the lowest level as much as possible. And I think grand zone projects, I don't really think much of them. Sometimes I think they take longer. They soak up a lot of resources. Supply side oriented. نحن زلنا لوجن حجي demand side مرايا لنا. Let bottom up. Start from the lowest level وردا. Understand the concrete problems in different parts of Tigray. At the lowest level, at the lowest administrative level, and then work upwards that way. Because at least, what you will know is that you will know what you need to do. This only for today, scenario for the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. كاون have resources to add to. Nab technology, whether it's hydro, whether it's solar, yeah? But first understand where the problem lies, what you need for today, tomorrow, and beyond. زي مالت خان هاي energy, miss health, miss infrastructure, miss agriculture, miss كلهم كتحاس اللو مالتي. It has to be connected, it has to be integrated. So we have to think in terms of bottom up as much as possible, at the same time in very integrated ways. Now, of course, this would require funds. Again, I'm also optimistic that funds, sometimes it's not the lack of funds, but the lack of ideas and the lack of imagination. If you have ideas, the resources can be generated. I think we have to step up. Some kind of a taxation system would need to be kicked off in order to be able to generate sustainable resources that will allow us to rebuild. I do think that's possible. So it's a combination of things. We will find things are broken up. Again, we have the experience to be able to rebuild. At the same time, we also have the people coming together in order to solve this grand problem. All this mobilization is the governor was saying. It's not easy. It's been pretty successful. So let's say the people are there, and then finally we have to find out, how we're going to be able to pay for it. The partnership fatirha kalyu, but it's not going to do it all. So you have to figure out, how else people are going to be able to contribute financially, to making sure that things are rebuilt and quicker.
ኣብዚ ናይ ኢነርጂ ተልዕልቲ ኣለካ ምስ ናይ ኮሎት ውድ ዘሎ ምትእስሳር ልዕልካ ኣለካ እሞ ተን ቀፂለ ክሓትከካ ይነበርኩ ምስ ኣብ ካሊእ ብሓፈሻዊ ክታይ ክግበር ኣሎ ካብቲ ናትካ ሞያውና ዝበልናዮ ዝተወሰነ መሊስካ ኣለካ ምናልባት ግን ምዚ ተተሓይዙ ኣብ ካሊእ ምስ ትምህርቲ ይኹን ካብ ዓዲ ጣልያን ጀሚርካ ካብ ኣሜሪካ ዝተፈላለዩ ብዙሕ ቦታታት ኢኻ ከይድካ ምስቲ ናይ ኤፒሲስ እውን ስራሕ ብዙሕ ላይ ኣለና ዝኾነ ቦታ ተስታውሶ እዚስ ኣብ ትግራይ ምኾነ ኢልካ ምናልባት ትግራይ ካብ ምክንያቱም እንታይ ዝበሃል ኩሉ ነገር ካብ ሓድሽ ክጅመር ለይክእል ኣለዎ ሓደ ግዜ ትወስዶ ትምህርቲ ኣሎ ካብ ዝኾነ ቦታ ግልጽ ነቲ ቦታኻ ነቲ ትደልዮ ቦታ ከተስማምዖ ኣለካ ክኾን ኣሎ ግን ከም መርኣያ ትወስዶ ነገራት ኣሎ ዶ እዚአን ኢልና ኣብዚ ምስ ዝተተሓዘ ነገራት ክንውዴና
Okay. Well, ብዙሓት examples አለው ጌች I think the key thing is to think outside the box ማለት what not a concrete ሆነ reality እንታይ ይልካ ምርዳ ኣለካ sometimes what happens is that we end up projecting out of this world, out of our capability, immediate capability at least. Now, but not sometimes, you hear, well, we can be like Singapore, we can be like Taiwan. We know that Kamuta Bahailu Amzeta Hala Ab Tisamenzalo Adi Reinalana. So the main thing is really to be realistic. Realistic. There are some interesting examples. Examples that are not just talking about big industrialized sort of solutions. Again, Abnet Kerala's Bahal regional of India, where people-centered policies applies Gabarulu, where the focus, the concentration was on solving problems, people's problems, health, education, the things that really make societies flourish. Kerala, up to one independence, was registering, it was the last in almost all the indicators, every indicator, economic, health, and so forth. And
that's a Professor.
Okay. And what happened was that the regional government of Kerala came in, and they decided on a policy of focusing on people's needs. So they concentrated on education, on health. And very quickly, within 5 years, they began to climb up that ladder. Right now, Kerala has the best education system, the best health system in India. What they don't have, I think they're somewhere in the middle in India, is economic growth. You're not doing so well in GNP. What's so big deal about that? Are we happier, or they're happier, or whoever? So I think one needs to have that real kind of conversation about the vision of the future of Tigray. What is it that we want out of it? The Keralans, they decided collectively that they should be focusing more on, what is the collective for people. So that's a good example. If we are going to take, a deeply environmental route, like Costa Rica example, Costa Rica has no army. I'm not for a minute proposing that, but the point is that they have prioritized where they invest. Another interesting example is, of course, good for the ideology, good for the politica. Again, you cannot knock the Cuban experience in education and health. You cannot knock it. It is the best there is in Latin America, and probably the best in the third world. How did they do it is the question. So we need to sort of look at that. Bhutan experience. Now, Bhutan experience is quite unique in the sense that Satom GDP their measurement is the happiness index. How happy are people? And so they have their own measurement, they have invested a lot in in energy, the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Plus they've invested a lot in reforestation and greening the area, and it's the only country that's carbon negative at the moment. So there are some interesting examples out there, but let's not look at the same ones again and again, but think about the ones that really speak to the reality of Tigray and the need for self-sufficiency as much as possible in all the things that we end up doing. The other thing I should mention, Getch, is I think going forward, the focus has to be on a limited number of areas where excellence can be achieved. It could be 2 or 3 areas, but just be really good at these instead of spreading yourself, too thin. Most Zuhulu, I think it requires really deep Zuhone, vision setting Zuhone, dialogue, bring in people from different corners of the world and from different parts of Tigray at every in different echelons of social groups.
قرم زي بتعمي وصاني قدم ناي تግራይ ህንጸት ክንልዕል ከለና 1991 ልዕልካና ይርካ 1991 ደሞ ኣብ ትግራይ ንዳግማይ ህንጸት ኣብ ዝግበር ጻዕሪ ሓዲኡ ዝተገበረ ናይ ጻዕሪ ብዙሓት ጻዕርታት እዮም ነይሮም ዳሃረ ተዓጽዩ እምበር ሳርት ነይሩ ፊት ለፊትና ዶክተር ሙሉጌታ አለው እስቲ ምናልባት እዚያ ኸሪ ደሊ ንተመልከተና ኣብዚያ መን ዩኒዮ እስቲ እዚ ኣብዛ ስእሊ እዚያ መዲና ንርለና
wow well on the left side Adea as it but the old lady is my grandmother Aduna boy malati but on the right side is my father and I don't know who that little boy is
that little boy is Professor
wow this is quite I didn't think you were going to show this
ማለት እዚ ታይ ምስቲ ብዳርግ ማይንጸት በጣም ዝተሓዘሎ ስታርት ክምስረት ከሎ ካብቶም መስረት ሓዲኦም እዮም ዶክተር ሙሉጌታ እዚ ኣብዚ ዳግማይ ህንጸት ደሞ ምስ ወዶም ኢና ንዘራረብለና እና ዝገርም አጋጣሚ እዩ አጋጣሚ ምናልባት አነ ያው ብውልቀይ ምስትናይ ዳግም ህንጸት ተታይዙ ምስ ክግበር ዘሎ ብሙሉ ናቶም ታሪኽን ንመምሃሩን ምንተኾን ክስራሓሎ የለ ዛምልና ምናልባት ኣብዚያ ሓላሓደን ነገራት ኣጸር ቢልና ተረአና ጽቡቅ ይመስለን ታይና ንረለና ኣብዚ
see well the top picture is Galakebayu Miss Babarata Minister of Agriculture at the time was on the right hand side madam yeah Dr. Muluጌታ ናይ agricultural planning director neru ማለት እዚ ናይ Ministry of Agriculture most of the capacity was being built and channeled through his department. But Ami Karabai Nerom Sababarata, even though they may have had ideological differences. But Entai'ኸ Nehru Kulligize Zomsavaiko drafting cabinet, drafting letters and drafting reports. He learned it, almost entirely from Atwa Babarata. And the Tehtil Kazalo Nai Shangoyu. بدحري إرشاد Minister revolution came 1974 and he served as Minister of National Resources ብሔራዊ ሀብት ልማት ምስ ሰባት well ተባይሱ ይሁን anyway he was they couldn't work it out so obviously he left after 6 months now that's a very lucky move ምክንያቱም ጊዜ ደርግ many who would be let off the hook but he somehow managed to get out ብድሕሪኡ ናይ ትግራይ ሽንጎ ሓደ ዓመት that's the last parliament ማለት እዩ ብጊዜ ለውጢ By the way, that was something which was mobilized, from Tigray. I think what happened was that some people mobilized in Tigray and they told him, well, you have a job to go to now. Go and represent Tigray in the Shango. That's effectively how it happened. It wasn't something that campaigns I never. And then after that, university her ኮይኑ ሰሪሑ ሓደ ክልተ ዓመት ካብኡ ናይ እዚ desert locust control organization ዝበሃል ናይ East African organization ነይሩ ናይቱ director general ኮይኑ ካብኡ ናብ UN system ኣትዩ تمليشو مسيو ناي كاب عدت الان አዲስ አበባ ኣብ ኢሴ ኮይኑ እዚ ናይ ሳርት ስራሕ ተጀመረ ማለት UNDP made the funds available ሞዚ ሳርት ካ ናይ እንታይ ትብሎ water
ናይ ማይን ናይ ሓመድን ዕቀባ
micro dams about those kinds of things. The model was from Korea and Morocco, mostly Morocco. ምክንያቱም ናይ ዚያቶም ዓዲ ናይ ኮሪያ ናብነት ከም 30,000 ዝኾኑ micro dams አለው. So food security was very much at the heart of a lot of what he was doing. And these micro dams work ማለት ተሰሪሖም ገለ አንዴ 4 ገለ ተሰሪሖም ይመስለኝ እዚ ኸኣ ናይ ኣብ ትግራይ ጥራሕ እንተ ዘይኾነ አማራ ክልል ኤርትራውን እንግዲህ ሽዑ ደሓን ነይሩ ምስ ኤርትራዊ there was a relationship there, so expertise was being shared between Tigray and Eritrea and Amhara Kalil. And I think the vision was the food security requires a huge amount of investment. Investment in human resources, investment in cashing, and also commitment by people. Mostly some of the dams, a lot of the dams failed because these were experimental. Not many in number, but where they worked, you're actually talking about farmers farming 2-3 times a year. So this was the purpose of those micro dam purpose entirely. You don't just rely on rainfall, but you actually store water for times when you can irrigate. This is normal practice in most countries where food security is guaranteed. So that was what they were trying to create.
Great. ብጣዕሚ ናይ ሳርት በዓል ዝኾነ ታሪክ I think ክረአሎ በተለይ ንምንታይ ምትዓፀ ካሜልካ ለዓለሎ ብዙሕ ነገራት እዩ እና ኣብዚ ምናልባት አይነብዕም ግን ሓደ ነገር እቲ ዋና ነገር ህዝ ለምሳሌ ትግራይ ከም ሓድሽ ብፍጥነትን ክትገብሮ ትኽእል ኢና ነና ኣብቲ ግዜ ኢና ነና እና ኣብዚ ክለዓል ከሎ እስቲ ስኻ አክቲቭሊ ያው ተሓስብ ጥራሕ ተረምካ ላብ ስራሕውን ንኽኣቱ ሰባት ኣብ ምግባር እና እስቲ ሳልሳይ ጋሻ ንወስኸው እዚ ጋሻ በዓሉ ኺሉ በዓሉ ግን ጋሻ ኮይኑ ግን ሎም ዓንቲ ዶክተር ገብረ ኺዳን ቋዕዳ መጻኻ እስቲ ናይ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ኣብዚ እዚ በተለይ ብዝተፈላለየ ነገር ኣብ ሰዓት መርሖ ናይ ተጋሩ ምሁራን ብሞይኡ ዝገብሮ ስራሕ ኣሎና ኣጸግመ ካህዚ ማለት ሓሰብካዮ እዩ ካብ ድቃስ ምናልባት እውን ናብ ድቃስ ላበልካ ነርካ ትኾን እና ንእሽተይ ይበለና ሞ ክትድቅስ ክገርፈካ
እሺ I think መጀመሪያ ፕሮፌሰር ጌታቸው በጣም ከመስግን ይደሊ ምክንያቱ ከምዚ ዓይነት ፕላትፎርም ፈጢርካ ኣብ ዝህሉ ኩነታት ዘለናሉ ማለት እዩ ከምኡውን ካብ ዝተፈላለዩ ቁርናት ዓለም ዘለው ብሉፃትን ከምኡውን ጽዕንቶ ፈጠርቲ ሞያ I think ኣብ ቅድሚት ዘይንሪኦም ግን ብድሕሪት ኮይኖም ብዙሕ ዝሰርሑ ከምል ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ኣታላለሽካ ዝኸድዎ ናይ ህይወት ታሪኾም ተሞክሮም ንህዝብና በተለይ ከዓ ነቲ መንእሰይ ካሕልፉ ስለትገብር ዘለካ ብመጀመርያ ብጣዕሚ ከመስግን ፕሮፌሰር ጌታቸው ንዓኻ ካብኡ ቀፂለ ምስ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ maybe ቅድሚ 2 ዓመት ኣቢልና ተራኺብና ኣብ ኣዲስ ኣበባ ብሓደ ዓርክና ዶክተር ሙሉ ገብረየስ ዝበሃል ዘን maybe ወሹ ስለዝነበረ ናይ 15 ደቂቃ ነይሩና I think ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ይዝክር ዘን ምሳፋለጠና ክልተና ብኢነርጂ ከም ንሰርሕ ካብኡ ከዓ ብዛዕባ ዝሰርሑ እውን ብሪፍ ገይሩኒ ብዛዕባ ታና GSTS እውን أبا بريف كيريو ذن بيزنس كارد لاويتنا خيدنا مارتيو دحريو أبتا حصار جزي زناجرن نجار صرح نجار زنورو تحطنا تخلي بتعمي أول سنة المسات أني أبتي جيس يسون دحخوم عين السلطرة خدام ودياونا هانت ناي مقوار خستاوسين نخيد مستمرس كنا بجرمن إميلز حيفولو بتالي لافتنا إنرجي سيكتور للو نا جيستيس جوين ኽግበረና ምንም ከያወላወለ ወዲያውን ጆይር ንገርና ማለትዩ በሐቂ ለምንጋር ሜቢ ከምቱ ዝወልካዮ ጀስ እዚ ኻደውል ካለይ ከምዛ ዓይነት ድንገት ተረኺብካ ብዛዕባ ብዙሕ ስራሕ ዝሰርሑ ኣሕዋት መኸዓ ኣብ ሓፂር እዋን መመስከር ከቢድ ክኸውን እዩ ግን ካብ ዝተላለኽዎ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ በተለይ ከዓ ላብቲ ናይ ጀስቲስ ኢነርጂ ሴክተር ጆይን ምስ ገበረና ብርክት ዝበሉ ብጣዕሚ ዝመሰጡኒ ባህርያት የርእየሉ ስለዚ እቲ ሓደ አይ ቲንክ ኩሎም ኣብቲ ናይ ኢነርጂ ሴክተር ዘለውን ዝምስክርዎ ካልኦት ኣዕርኽቲ እውን ዝምስክርዎ ዩኒቨርሳል ዝኾነ ክስታይል እየ ዝወስድ ብጣዕሚ ትሑት እዩ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ I have to be honest ንባዕሉ ሎው ፕሮፋይል ገይሩ ንኻሊእ ስፔስ እዩ ካልኦት ናመርሑ ወይ ደሞ ካልኦት ናተሓብሩ እሱ ከዓ ካብኡ ከይነኣሰ ግን ሎው ክስታይ ገይሩ ዝሓስብ ካሊእ ክዓቢ ካሊእ ታለንቱ ኤክስፕሎር ንኽገብር ዝገብር ካብቶም ብጣዕሚ ክስታይ ዘለዎም ተመክሮ ዘለዎም ኣሕዋትና እሞ ከዓ I don't know ዝኾነ ካብቱ ፕሮፌሽናል ሓቢርካ ምስራሕ ውሽጥኻ እውን ዘላዓሉኻ ኢነርጃይ ዝገብሩኻ ሓውና ኢለየ ክስታይ ዝገብሮ ኣብ ቅድሚኡ ስለ ዝኾነ ይኾነን I think ካልኦት እውን ዝምስክርዎ ስለ ዝኾነ ማለት እዩ ካብኡ ትመበል ካልኣይ ለዓዱ ዘለዎ ፍቅሩ ከም ዝበልካዮ ወላዲኡ ዶክተር ሙሉጌታ እውን ብደንብ ጌርካ ገሊልካ ኣለኻ ፕሮፌሰር ጌታቸው ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ እውን ከምኡ ኮይኑ የረኺቦዮ ንዓዱ ንህዝቡ ሜቢ ኣብቲ ሶሻል ሚድያ ብዙሕ ከይረአ ይኽእል ንሕና ኢና መብዛሕትኡ ማለት ስለባዕለ ኣብኡ ንረአይ ግን ካብቶም ብውሽጢ ዝሰርሑ ኣብዚ ሕዚ እዋን እውን ድቃስ ዘይብሎም ኣሕዋትና ሓደ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ እዩ ስለዚ ምስቲ ናይ ዓዱ ንህዝቡ ዘለዎ ፍቅሪ እውን ልክዕ ከም ወላዲኡ እና ናይ ባዕሉ እውን ታሪኹም ካሊእ ወሲኹ ብጣዕሚ ትጉህ ዝኾነ ሓውና ኮይኑ እየ ዝፈልጦ ረኺበዮ እውን ሓቢርና ክንሰርሕ ከለና እውን ዝምስክሮ ካልኦት እውን ኣሕዋትና ዝምስክርዎ ንሱ እዩ ሳልሳይ ሜቢ ከምቱ ገቹ ዘልካዮ ላብቱ ክስታይ ክንመፅእ ከለና እቲ ናይ ፕሮፌሽናሊ ላብ ናይ ጀስቲስ ኢነርጂ ምሳእተወ ብጣዕሚ ዓብዪ ዓቕሚ እዩ ፈጢሩልና ኣብኡ ብርክት ዝበሉ ክኢላታት ዓብዪ ተመክሮ ዘለዎም ኣሕዋትና ኣለዉ ናይ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ምስ መፀ ከዓ እቲ ዝበልኳ ፐርሰናሊቲ ፐርሰናል ኢንተግሪቲታት እውን ተሓዊሱ ነቲ ቲምና ዓብዪ ጥንካረ ሂብዎ ስለዚ ኣብቲ ናይ 25 ናይ ትግራይ ግራንድ ሮድማፕ ክስራሕ ከሎ ካብቶም ብጣዕሚ ዓበይቲ ኮንትሪቢዩተር ዝነበሩ ሓውና ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ እዩ ግን ኣብ ማእኸል ከዓ ትኩላትና ንብሎ ነገር መፅኡ እቲ ኩነታት ኣሰናኺልዎ ማለት እዩ ስለዚ ድሕሪኡ ኣብ ናይ ሲፓ ዝበሃል ዶኩመንት ኣብቲ ናይ 25 ዓመት ናይ ትግራይ ናይ ነዊሕ ግዜ ግራንድ ሮድማፕ ንብሎም from the very beginning ካብቱ TOR ዲቨሎፕ ምግባር ጀሚሩ then weekly meeting ነይሩ ኣብኡ እናተረኸበ then ብኢሜል ዝግበር ነገር እውን ኣብ ገበረ ብዙሕ ኮንትሪቢዩት ዝገበረ ሓውና እዩ ኣብዚ ናይ ሕዚ ክንመፅእ ከለና እውን ካብቶም ኣብቲ ፍሮንት ኮይኖም ብሞይኦም ንትለሎ ከውዝም ፕሮፌሰር ጌታቸውም ኣብቱ ትነጥፎ ዘለኻ ማለት እዩ ናይ ሎማዓንቲ ሞር ኣካዳሚክ ምሰል እምበር ኣብቲ ካልኦት ትልታ መሓላልፎም ብጣዕሚ ዓበይቲ ስራሕቲ እኒአው ስለዚ ስፔሲፊካሊ ኣብ ክልተ ነገር ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ኣብቲ ናይ ጂኤስኤስ ዘለዎ ኮንትሪቢዩት ትገብር ሓደ እቲ ዝተልዕሎ ዝነበርካ ኩነታት ኣሎ ናይ ፖስት ዋር ሪኮንስትራክሽን ኤንድ ዲቨሎፕመንት ኣሎ ግን ኣብዚ ሕዚ እዋን ኮይና እንታይ ኢና ክንሕግዝ ንኽእል ኣብዚ ኩናት እዋን ኮይና እንታይ ክንሕግዝ ኣለና ኣብቲ ትራንዚሽን ከ ዘን እቲ ናይ ፖስት ዋር እውን ሪኮንስትራክሽን ሓደ ነገር እውን ፕሪፓሬሽን ክንገብር ስለ ዘለና ኣብ ሕድሕድ ቲም ዝቋቋም ነገር ኣሎ ኣብ ኢነርጂ እውን ናይ ኢነርጂ ኢመርጀንሲ ፕሪፐርድነስ ሪስፖንስ ኤንድ ሪከቨሪ ቲም ልብል ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ዝመርሖ ዘሎ ስለዚ ኣብኡ ሰለስተ ሳብ ቲማት ኣለዋ ስለዚ ኣብ ፍረንት ኮይኖም ዘለዎም ተመክሮኦም ናይ ብርክት ዝበለ ዓመታት ኣብ ዝተፈላለየ ዓዲ ከም ትረኣኻዮ እናተዛወረ ዘኻዕወቱ ልምዲ ናብቲ ናይ ቀፃሊ ዘሎ ኣብዚ ሕዚ እዋን እውን ንህዝብና ንክልና ክንሕግዘሉ ንኽእል ኣብ እዋን ኩናት ኮይንካ እውን ተሃልዮም ኤክስፕሎር ዝገብር ቲም ቼሪ ዝገብር ዘሎ ማለት እዩ ካብኡ ብተወሳኺ ከዓ ናይ ራፒድ ሪስፖንስ ኤንድ ኤዲቶሪያል ቲም ዝብል ኣብ ጂኤስቲኤስ ኣሎ ናብ 13 ዝኾኑ ሲነር ኣሕዋትና ምፅሓፍ ናሬቲቭ ሴት ኣብ ምግባር ካሊእ ዝነጥፉ ኣብኣቶም እውን ዊክሊ ዝራኸቡ ኣብ ኢሜል ከዓ ዴይሊ ብዙሕ እናተላወጡ ዲቨሎፕ ናገበሩ ኣብ ጂኤስቲኤስ ንሪኦም ዘይንሪኦም ብዙሓት ስራሕቲ ካብዛ ብርክቱ ኣብ ቶም ኣብ ቅድሚ ዝስሩ ኣሕዋትና ካብኣቶም ሓደ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ስለዚ ሜቢ እሱ ዘለካ ግዜ ንስታ ሃንደበት ውዛእተወኻኒ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ I think ምስቱ ናይቲ ፐርሰናል ኢንቴግሪቲ ምስቱ ሃይ ናይ ፕሮፌሽኑ ንትነዓድሎ ኣለዎ ማለት ፍቕሪ እሞ ከዓ ፍቕሪ ዘይኮነ ፍቕሪ ከዓ ብተግባር ኣብ ምትርጓም ኣብ ማለት ዝሓተትካዮ ወይም ከዓ ባዕሉ አይዲያታት ኣምንጩ እሞ ከዓ ልቱ ያንግ ማለት ዘሎ ፕሮፌሽናል እውን ቦታ ናሃበ ንኸዓቢ ጋይድ ዝገብር ዝመክር ዳይሬክሽን እውን ዘትሕዝ ሓውና እዩ ስለዚ ብዙየ ኣነ ብሓፂሩ ክገልፆም I think hopefully ካሊእ መዓልቲ ከዓ ሰፍሕ ዝበለ ፕሮግራም ይህሉ ካብ መዋለ ማለት ያግነለይ ፕሮፌሰር ጌታ I'm very happy ለፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ እውን ናብ ክስታይ ምፅኢኻ ሓሳቡ ተመክሮ ሼር ዝገበርካና
يقنيلي قري دكتور كبرخيلان بقى خالي معلتي خنزرارب هنا يقنيلي
يقنيلي انا وين خبرتي هذا
امين تكتاتلوا زلكم ناي مدي ميديا اب እንዳ ገብረ ሕይወት ብዝብል ሓድሽ መደብ ዘቕረበው ብክኢላታትን ብትምህርትን ብዝተፈላለየ መንገድ ብልምዱ ንኾን ይኽእል ብናይ ሕይወት ልምዲ ክኢላታት ዝኾኑ ኣሕዋትና ኣሓትና ሒዝና ምፂና ንቶም መናሰይ እንታይ'ኸ ምሁር ይኽእሉ ካብ ልምዶም ካብ ትምህርቶም ካብኡ ኸ ንዳግማይ ህንፀት ትግራይ ብናቶም ትምህርትን ሞያን ብኸመይ ይርእይዎ እንታይ ዓይነት መንገዲ ተተኸተለት እያ ትግራይ ቶሎን ብፅቡቕን ብዝሐሸ መንገዲ ክትምዕብል ክትዓቢ ትኽእል ብዝብል ኢና ንዘራረብ ዘለና ማለት እዩ ናይ ሎሚ ጋሻይ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ እዩ እታ ዝግጅት ናብ ወዳእና ያይና መጨረሻ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ዝሓቶ ልስልስ ዝበለት ሕቶ እያ ብኣኽን ውዲእና እዛ ልስልስ ዝበለት ሕቶ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ይስምዓካ ኣሎ
ይሰማኛል
ኦኬ እንደ በቃ እታ ናይ መጨረሻ ሕቶ ካብዚ ወይ ስምዓና ኣሎ
Okay, I don't know what happened.
Wow, ኣብፂኡ ካ ነይሩ ታም ዝኾነ ኣብኮ መሸጋገሪ ላ ተዛረብኩ ነይረና ታ ናይ መጨረሻ ሕቶ ልስልስ ዝበለት እያ ክትኾንና ካብዚ ትምህርቲ ካብዚ ሞያ ካብዚ ናይ ትግራይ ዳግማይ ህንፀት ብሙሉ ሸፊና ካብ መዓልታዊ ካብ ስራሕ ወፃኢ ታይ ምግባር እዩ ዝሐጉሰካ ታይ ትገብር ታይ ይመስል ትርፍ ግዜኻ تحلفه زخونا نجا مچم مقبار كاي تعرفه
well by the way can I say something أبيلو قبر كيدان
بقى مسكرنا هو أو سينا يلنا
يدكس okay
ندون ولا هنا خالص جس لازلنا
okay no I just wanted to say you know I think the world of him مالتي how you say you قبر كيدان I don't know كمي ما أسكر زدكس زي not you know it's not because of the war and I بدحرق كينات زي خونس even throughout the past so many years you know he's been putting in so much shift into all the efforts of Tigray mostly بتعمي مسكنا كنهبو يدلينا of course you are also you know quite special yourself what do I do well كان ياو talent I will learn so مالتي see I'm more of a consumer عندما يبلكانير consumer rather than a producer so I would love to produce music I would love to produce you know I don't know, pieces of art or whatever. But what I do is I listen to music. Let's see, I listen to quite a lot of jazz, blues, yeah, things like that. So that's what I mean by consumer. And I keep myself fit as I can in order to be able, to survive this crazy world.
ብጣዕሚ የቀኒየለይ ፕሮፌሰር ያዕቆብ ብዙሕ ትምህርቲ ዝተረኸበሉ ዝግጅት እዩ ነይሩ ኢለ ይለኣምን ኣነ ደስ ከም ዝበለኒ ብዙሓት ካብዚ ክመሃሩ እዮም ናይ መጀመርያ ጋሻይ ናይ እንዳገብረ ህይወት ናይ መጀመርያ ጋሻ ስለ ዝኾንካ ብጣዕሚ የቀኒየለይ እግዚአብሔር ያበለይ
Thank you, Getch. And I'm honored to have come on your show. And all this thing that you're doing is truly amazing. The commitment, it's so important. The whole communication to create, the network to be able to talk. Plenty of respect to you. Finally, I should also congratulate you for your professorship, for being a full professor. All those papers that you've published, all the wonderful research you have done, is being rewarded with a very esteemed professorship from one of the best universities in the world. So, respect to you.
ያዕቆብ ልብለካ ኣነ ኣብዚ ሎማዓንቲ ላወርኩ ኢለ ኣለኹ እና ላብ ያዕቆብ ተመለስ ኢና ደሓነ ደራባኻ ብጣዕሚ መሽ እዩ ግን ዝደልዩኻ ብትዊተርን ብሊንክድን ክረኽቡኻ ኢለ ይኣምን ዳሕና ሓደር
ጉድ ናይት
ተከታተልዎ ዝፀናዕኹም ናይ ዩኤምዲ ሚድያ ኣብ ምርዳእን ምልክዕን ምግባርን ወይ ብተግባር ምግላፅን ዝሰርሕ ሚድያ እዩ ንማስረጃ ዝመርሖ ተዋስኦን ውሳነን ዝፅዕር ሚድያ እዩ ሰብስክራይብ ዘይገበርኩም ሰብስክራይብ ግበሩ ብዙሓት ሰብስክራይብ ግበሩልና ምክንያቱም ዩኤምዲ ሚድያ እንድሕር ብዙሕ ሰብስክራይበር ሃልይዎ ዩቲዩብ በዓሉ ዝወፅእ ፕሮግራማት ንብዙሓት ሪከመንድ ክገብር እዩ ብፌስቡክ እውን ትከታተሉና ከምኡ ሼር ግበሩ ላይክ ግበሩ ሓሳብ ሃውና ኢሜይል ኣብ ታሕቲ ተፅሒፍ ኣሎ ዘስተኣናገድኩኹም ጌታቸው ኣሰፋይ ነይረ ብካሊእ ጋሻ ኣብዚ ናይ እንዳገብረ ህይወት ክንምለስ ኢና ፅባሕ ግን ዘይርሳዕ ክልተ ነገራት ኣለዋ ሓዲኡ ጋሻይ ዶክተር ሰሎሞን መዝገቡ ኣብ ኮቫሊስ ኢትዮጵያ የት ወዴት ትግራይ እንደማሳያ ዝብል በአምሓርኛ ዝግጅት ክህልወና እዩ ካልኣይ ደግሞ ብናይ ኣቆፃፅራ ኣክሱም 9 PM AST ኣክሱም ስታንዳርድ ታይም ኢልና ኣለና ብዩኤምዲ ሚድያ ናይ ዩኤምዲ ሚድያ ፀዋታ ክህሉ እዩ ፀዋታ ፉክክር እዩ ውድድር እዩ ሽልማት ክህልዎ እዩ ላይቭ እዩ ዝመሓላለፍ ላይቭ ዝተረኸበ ጥራሕ እዩ ክፃወት ዝኽእል ዝተቐድሐ ርኢኻ ምፅዋት ኣይከኣል ያው እቲ ሲስተም ኣይፈቕዲ ፅባሕ በቆፃፅራ ኣክሱም ሰዓት 9 PM ናይ ምሸት 3 ማለት እዩ ኣብ ናይ ዩቲዩብ ቻናልና ተዘጋጅኩም ተፀበዩና ሎማዓንቲ እዚ ይመስል ነይሩ ደሓን ሕደሩ ሰላም